Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. So it's been a hot minute since I've done a review, but I recently finished reading The Fires of Vengeance by evanwinter, which is the second novel in his Burning Quartet and the sequel to The Rage of Dragons. Like its predecessor, this book was published by Orbit and came out in 2020, and it's also one of the more recently released novels I've actually finished reading. And before I get to the review, I wanted to give a shout out to David DeCero, since he wanted to do a read-along on his Discord, which prompted me to actually go ahead and get the book in the first place, and it also helped break me out of a reading slump, so good job, David. I'm going to talk mild spoilers for the beginning of the book and sort of the end, but I'm really going to try to avoid saying names of characters, so if you haven't read this yet, you should be fine. I'm really going to talk more about the writing and the world building than any super specific plot details past the inciting incident. Shocking no one, I really enjoyed this story pretty much from start to finish, just as I did with the first book. I said this in my Rage of Dragons review, but I'll reiterate it here, that Winter's greatest strength is his pacing. Once I was reacquainted with the story and the world, I really couldn't put the book down. Winter just really gets how to balance gripping action sequences with really heartfelt character moments in a way that resonates with me, both as a reader and a writer. The Fires of Vengeance picks up days after the end of The Rage of Dragons, and our characters have had basically no time to rest. Our protagonist, Solarin, has been made the champion of Queen Tsiora, a move that sends shockwaves through the Omehi people. And as we learned in the first book, the Omehi are split into two overarching categories, nobles and lessers, which each have their own subcategories. Tao is a lesser, but thanks to his training in Isihogo, the underworld, he has become the Omehi's greatest warrior. Naturally, most nobles don't like the decision to make a lesser a champion, while many lessers are bolstered by one of their own ascending to such a high position. And this schism is felt immediately as a group of previously loyal nobles conspire against the queen. An assassination attempt leaves Tao wounded, but that doesn't stop him and his companions from hunting down the traitors after they flee Citadel City, which has become the Queen's capital city because there is a civil war brewing. And meanwhile, the real capital, Palm City, is under the control of Obasi Odili, who is the man responsible for Tao's father's death in the first book. Odili has set up Essie, Siora's sister, as the new queen of the Omehi, and Tao still very much wants revenge on Odili, and this desire is what aligns him with the real queen for the time being. And then in the midst of this brewing civil war, Tao and the others must also contend with the Zidane, who are the native people of Zida. Pretty early on, Tao leads a mission to remove a powerful warlord, which, while slowing down the Zidane threat, causes serious repercussions later on in the book. The majority of the plot is focused around Tao and Siora's preparations for fighting Odili and his army. At the same time, Tao has to learn how to navigate not only noble society with his new position, but also his ambiguous relationship with the queen. And of course, both of these tasks are made all the more difficult by recurring visions of demons in the real world. The more Tao trains in Isihogo, the less certain he is of what's real and what's not, and we're left wondering whether the split between the two realms is weakening. Alright, now I'm going to tread a little lightly into spoiler territory. Once again, I don't intend to use character names or go into too much detail, but if you don't want a hint of anything that's to come, skip to this timestamp. Something that really stuck out to me throughout this book is how well Winter crafts the awkward interactions between Tao and Tsiora. These are two people who hold incredible power in their own ways, but they're also teenagers, and they sometimes just don't know how to act around each other. And as a former teenager, I understand being awkward. I'm awkward now as an adult. I really admire how Winter can go from a really cool action sequence in one chapter, where Tao shines as this amazing fighter, to a scene of almost embarrassing sexual tension. And it's a credit to Winter's strength as a writer that I find both of these types of scenes equally intriguing and exciting. We also get to see an expansion of our understanding of Isihogo and the origins of the Omehi, which explains why the caste system exists as it does in the present. One of my chief complaints about the Omehi culture in the first book was the rigid division between the caste, and I'm a real big sucker for a good revolution story, which is why the caste system really drives me nuts. And while we're not quite there yet, the scales are definitely tilting that way, and I really hope that certain nobles will get their comeuppance. Anyway, obviously everything leads to a big showdown at Palm City between the loyalists and the usurpers, and we finally get to see dragons in full action. And with all of that going on, Winter does deliver on a couple of big plot points at the end of this book that actually started in the previous book. Tao's vengeance quest comes to a head, the Zadine forces rally and once again pose a big threat, but even worse is the final revelation that the Cull, which are the mysterious beings that caused the Omehi to flee their homeland hundreds of years ago, have now landed on Zidda. And let me tell you, I am pumped to see where the story goes next. I did want to touch on the structure of this book since it follows the pattern that was established in the Rage of Dragons, and I just think it's really neat.
I just think they're neat.
Each chapter is broken up into about 5 to 8 subchapters, each of which have their own title. Once again then, the subchapter is typically a single scene that fits the theme of its heading, and then the grouping of scenes creates chapters that feel almost like self-contained short stories that are then connected by the overarching plot of Tao's vengeance quest and the Civil War. I still don't think I've seen this sort of structure before, at least not in the way that Winter does it, and I really like the way that he utilizes it. That being said, it's not something I personally want to emulate, which is good because then I don't look like I'm copying him. Oh, and just like the first book, this is another good example of why predictability is not a bad thing in storytelling. Once again, I figured I knew how things would pan out with the rebel nobles and the Zadine, and my predictions were proven correct by the end of the story. However, as I've said before, I like being able to see where a story is going because, in a way, it proves to myself that I know how a good story is constructed. I might just have to do a separate video on the benefits of predictability, so stay tuned for that one. Now that I've heaped a bunch of praise upon the book, I will say that I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the Rage of Dragons, but that's more of a personal taste thing and not due to any real issues with the book. I tend to like the underdog sports team story that was present in the first book, coupled with the much more difficult quest for revenge. While Tao is certainly seeking revenge in this one still, we as readers can be confident that if he catches up to Odili, Odili is going to die and Tao will have his vengeance. Whereas in the Rage of Dragons, Tao was working toward becoming the unstoppable fighter that he is now in the present. But at the same time, seeing a turbo badass soldier overcome nearly insurmountable obstacles is also really cool. If you've read the first book and you enjoyed that one, you're probably going to end up liking the Fires of Vengeance. It is such a good blend of intricate world building, a really unique magic system, and a whole lot of violence. The breakneck pace, the structure of the chapters, and just wanting to see how Tao's story continues to unfold really made it hard to put down. Overall, it's a very solid novel, just like the first one, and I highly recommend both. I think that's all for today. As always, thanks for stopping by my channel. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in hearing more of my thoughts on various stories and my own writing journey. Leave a comment below if you've read The Fires of Vengeance or if you're interested in reading it, and let me know your thoughts on it, or feel free to just say hello. I post new videos on Sundays. Until next time, I hope that you have a wonderful day, and I will catch you here in the next video.